Good morning, everyone. My name is Flicker, and today I'm going to be doing my Sky Dailies. Didn't do them last night because of my mental state and a few other things. So I might as well get it done fresh and early today. Currently considering a few things, because I made progress in Necromerger to the point where I can now just farm the extra resources of gold and diamonds, which would be useful. No, I can't get my Devourer past level 50 because it's just not possible until I use the time machine in that game, but I'm planning on just sitting where I'm at for a while, even if it's not necessarily fun, in order to make sure I get the proper resources for the next run through. That'll make it easier for me to run through without having to do hours of merging and sorting and everything else. Alright, so what are our missions for today? Sapling, Stranger, Meditate, Joy. Gonna take a moment to kick up some music. Let's see. I'm not really feeling like that, come on. Not really feeling like that. That works. Oh. Between nightmare level Eldritch streams and other things, I just kind of woke up with a lot to think about this morning. Okay, that's probably in the Starlight Desert. No, in my dreams, the plumbing wasn't working again over at my dad's house, though it was thankfully functional enough over at my mom's. Ugh. Also, weird changes there in the architecture. Oh, and let's not even forget how about going outside in front of my mom's house led to finding out why the floor was sloped on the left and right sides. Damn it. For context, it was the east and west sides of the house. Hello there. And fuck you. No, apparently there were cables and/or cords in the dream world that ran underneath the ground in the street to connect all of the houses up to each other. My mind justified it as grounding wires for like thunder strikes and storms to help redistribute electricity into the ground. But personally speaking, I didn't really think that's... Ow! Brain hurt, brain hurt, brain hurt. Jeez. Just because I'm defying your reasoning, brain, you fucking hurt? Okay then, fuck you too. And it's not like any thin wires, no, these were like solid metal cables, similar to the thickness of rebar. Also, why is this one unlit? Either way, I took it meant consciously when looking back at it. My brain's like, when looking back at that signal from my subconscious in my dreams, I'm left to think, okay, I'm seriously testing its ability to handle things. Give it a break. Mm. Mm, 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 mm. Ooh, interesting. Oh, jeez. On some level, I feel like part of my mind is sabotaging me. I'm not sure why it's doing it, other than a fear of failure, fear of success, fear of getting hurt again. Of all three are which, you know, decent reasons, but shutting down isn't the way forward. It isn't a way to live. It's just a way to survive. If I can't address the issues that part of me brings up, then it's going to continue trying to subvert me. No, but the favorite thing for my brain to wonder about and try to think about is the largest problem conceivable to my scale of life, which isn't even within my actual current scale of living, but instead on the current scale of all the life that exists relative to me, even if I don't have direct interactions with it. Yeah, you. I would hate to be hit by that as it's coming in, I'm gonna be real. Why do I say I'm gonna be real? Because it's a social context key indicator in my brain, where it's like, hey, it's something someone says when they're talking about something emotional and personal. Yay, I got a like. I'm not about to worry about that. Bitch. Get the fuck over here! Bitch. Flying required. Oh, I'm well aware. Mm. Could I play that song in the background? I probably could. But I'd rather ask for permission first. For those of you wondering, there's a remix of music from a D&D series called the Adventure Game, I think. And that remix is titled No Healing in Wonderland. And the fact that it actually has context woven into its title, because that actually is a rule that came up in the final boss of that game series. After fighting multiple electric-type enemies that did decent damage. Oh. Meanwhile, I feel like it also connects to a theme of reality and mental health, too. There's no healing in Wonderland. Not if Wonderland is only used to ignore the problem. Fiction as a conduit for reality is often far more useful than fiction without reality, denying reality. Because one allows for a tempering of the bitterness and harshness of the truths that reality holds against the softness and dynamic intrigue of fiction, which can make it more palatable for the mind to digest. But if one simply puts empty fiction together and doesn't have any meaning baked into that fiction, then ultimately they are upholding an empty fantasy. Something that does not inform them, but instead just amuses them. And that draws it closer to the void and oblivion than I would like to think about. Because it's how people pretend. It's how they treat rules and truths as absolute instead of relative. And I feel like that does more harm to people than anything else. Whoa. Momentum there is heavy. Ay. I wonder if I should have that be a dynamic rule in terms of how the concept of Flicker, fictional self version, interacts with other worlds and universes. nom nom nom. Nom 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 nom. Some reds, but hey, I'll take it. It's majority yellows. There's no healing in Wonderland, there's no recovering from things while playing pretend if you just use the pretend to ignore them. Because a failure to acknowledge reality ultimately causes the most damage. Not in the sense of actual physical harm, but more so in the sense of that disconnection keeps you from actually engaging with the present moment and making decisions that would have a greater impact on it. Now, should everyone face reality all the time, 24/7? No, that would be like asking someone to look at Eldritch knowledge for a week without losing their mind. Raising one's ability to tolerate looking at reality for periods of time, be them longer or shorter, would be intimately and deeply helpful to their growth. Oh, that's what that is. Fucking, I thought it was gonna be extra. Extra wax? I would love that! Technically, you could get extra wax out of that. Yeah, but I'm not gonna bet on it. Ooh, that was cool! I want to see how reproducible that is. Add momentum. Yeah, no, if you've got momentum going, you can technically add it on top of whatever momentum you just kicked off when you flap your wings. But only sometimes. Being in motion or hitting a, distinct state change seems to limit it. And or cut the available combination down to a limited range. Let's go! Hell yeah! Oh, there's also a piece of context I want to acknowledge for a moment that I talked with, Willow about the other night, because I was in such a shitty place mentally. Why was I in such a shitty place? Well, let's just say the stress of the world and other bullshit is not exactly fun to deal with. But no, something I acknowledged in talking with Willow the other night was that although I do seem to have like a consistency of one viewer, that doesn't mean it's the same viewer every time. That doesn't mean that they're actually it's the same person liking the videos every time. That was a functional delusion in order to help maintain my sanity and stability in moments where I needed a sense of support, but that's not a delusion I want to keep running in the background if it's just going to disconnect me from reality and leave me vulnerable to manipulation and or false conclusions. And no, disliking this video will not prove me wrong that you're actually a single person. Come on now. With my acknowledgement that it could be multiple people with their own interests liking the videos as they want instead of a single person interacting. That like and dislike thing is not going to communicate enough information to prove to me that no, it's actually a person consistently viewing my videos. The same person, let alone the same person. So, if you want to be noticed, please leave a comment below. After all, you can't get to know someone if they never speak up. And if I never make the space for them to speak up, then I also can't get to know them. Some quippy corner of my brain wanted to add that extra bit in there, because it's like, are you speaking in absolutes? You do know there are exceptions, right? And it's just like, yes, I know there's exceptions, and I know other people might not immediately jump to those exceptions, hence why I fucking explained it. Ugh. But that's not entertaining or fun to talk about, like, damn! Hell, if we wanted to go down that route, we'd be getting into real deep knowledge and accuracy territory relative to structures and how they're set up. And most people don't like that unless it's a structure that they are actually, you know, interested in. Be it a hobby, a sport, or otherwise. Hell, even drama has structure to it. Why do you think there are drama farmers? Ugh, I hate acknowledging those ones. Why do I hate acknowledging them? Because look up the song Candle Queen. If that doesn't answer your questions, I'm not sure what will. There's still a naive and young part of me that thinks people getting up to mischief and having moments where they aren't sane, rational human beings is them losing themselves, but the rest of me knows that it's not the case. That people can co-regulate their sanity and their fun at the same time. It's environments and people which prevent that from happening, from getting to that point and teaching it in a healthy way, that cause problems 9 times out of 10. Be it toxic people wanting to encourage people into doing certain things so that way they can take advantage of them, or naive and innocent people thinking in absolutes because they cannot accept a nuanced truth. Because they childishly think that things that are opposite cannot connect and interact. Which is just really interesting to think how that can be both a fundamentally childish thing, and yet it's held by overgrown children more often than actual children. Sure, there may have been one actual child long ago who believed that, and there probably will be another one again, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every kid is going to be thinking in such narrow definitions of reality and dynamics. Oi, get up there! Oh, okay, thank you, game. I guess. I don't know. Hmm. Also, speaking of the world, I should not be doing this with food in my mouth, but I know I will anyways, so fuck it. One of the fundamental problems of raising a highly educated workforce and making sure that resources and rights are distributed evenly is that you'll end up encountering people who place their self-worth above what you're offering, and thus you'll have no workers. However, for as much as that can be taken to a positive angle, I feel like I'm having a hard time phrasing this one because there's a mental angle going on here that I'm not quite sure about. Because in one sense, there's the entitlement of having jobs available and all that. But then you have programs and systems that don't actually make sure that there are jobs available, but instead only give benefits to people who claim that there are jobs available. Which sucks. Oh, delicious. So between people who feel entitlement, which I consider immaturity in a negative state, alright, so there's the entitled ones, there's the people who want to actually manage and grow things so that they work, then there's people who want to cut resources and costs wherever possible to possibly an unhealthy extreme, which is, I think, part of what we're dealing with, to the point where degradation of tools and technology is prioritized for further sales rather than stability, which it at some point just becomes cancer. It's just really a depraved form of psychological cancer. Then there's people wanting to actually work but not being accepted because, joy oh joy, you don't have the qualifications we're looking for and we don't want to hire anyone who hasn't been employed before. Because fuck you, we need someone who can do their job right and we're not willing to take our time to train our employees. And actually see who can grow and who cannot, because it's just not efficient. Well, fucking twat. Twat to whoever fucking decided on that. Oh, hello. And when you've got an economy that stifles making space for such institutions and such kinds of companies, it becomes harder to actually create a job market. Thus, the isolationism ends up not only hurting business, but also the people the business was originally created to serve. And so the business turns from a servant into a predatory operation. Which is just disappointing. And then there are poorer, lower income families who are living on more of a tribal level as opposed to the modern day dynamics of people in high functioning positions. Which creates the contrast of there will always be more people in poverty who seek to work for less than there will be people outside of poverty who will seek to work for the same amount. And that's just due to a matter of survival. And sure, you could keep such people out from your country, but that's not exactly how you maintain a foundation of the workforce, especially in people who might be able-bodied and willing to contribute. But then that also runs into the risk of corruption via social dynamics, just like anything else does, and oh, that's a whole another can of worms I don't even want to get into. Can you start to see why I call this the Ouroboros lock? Where it's just, instead of one snake biting its own tail, because that would be too simple to just, okay, you detach the snake's head from the tail and give it some real food. No, it's a whole bunch of Hydra snakes with Hydra tails fighting onto each other, intertwined and overlapped to the point where it's an annoying mess to take apart. And then there's political ideologies and fucking sanctification of concepts getting in the way as well. Oh, and then there's the dynamic of people counting on something reliable to the point where they stop respecting it and start abusing it. And that's its own pile of bullshit. I swear, trying to fucking think of ways to govern you goobers effectively without fucking taking away your rights is a nightmare. I can understand why politicians ended up the way they did, even if I don't respect what they chose out of convenience, because I actually want to do something proper instead of just out of convenience. Unfortunately, I don't have the effort to put towards actually getting stuff done, so I'm about as useless as everyone else. And I'm only talking in concepts and thoughts. Doesn't matter how complicated or point on my thoughts are, if I can't take action on them, they're just sitting words. Ah. And there's always going to be someone who doesn't like how any system or governments or navigation and support works. Because there's always going to be outliers, exceptions, and mutations. So how do you draw the line between people who provide useful new insights and people who don't? Because then you get into the social dynamics of people dehumanizing each other, just so that way they can keep their points and social territory spick and span and isolated from new ideas. Unhealthy sanctification. And sure, your heads all may be hurting from the depth and tangents I've gone down all in one moment, but hey, this is only the bare surface of what I'm trying to figure out. Because fucking hell, of course it is. Because remember, the three fundamental problems that this all links back to are psychology, resource management, And ah, fuck, I lost the third point. Ah! Every single concept and issue contributes to multiple other concepts and issues. That means you cannot have a one-hit fix-all solution that's just utterly and blindingly simple. And you can't have hollow complexity to solve it either, because then you're just ignoring the nuances between each of the component parts and trying to solve the problem by killing some of the snakes between, when no, the whole point is to try and take care of all the snakes that are involved in the lock, such that they don't feel like they need to swallow each other in order to survive, and instead, that you'll adequately fed, and psychologically restrained enough to where they don't endlessly multiply new problems. But of course, you can't keep that from happening in concept form because, fuck off, concepts are a pain in the ass. And one of the most fundamental issues is, no matter how good you build a system, even if you somehow manage to get to a reasonable and morally adjusted populace that is able to balance maturity and immaturity in the same breath, that doesn't necessarily mean your worries are over yet, because there's always other outside forces from the cosmos and the laws of nature as well. The laws of the wilderness still persist even if we feel like we've outgrown them. Which is why resource management is an issue. And people who just want to play with money and power are ultimately overgrown children who are willing to sacrifice a lot of other people's lives for their own gain, which isn't responsible at all, even if they are effective at managing money and seeking out opportunities. So how do you constrain for that, too? Oh. If I had a 9-to-5 job, I wouldn't have the time to think about all of this. If I had a regular life where, joy oh joy, I had to deal with the same issues as everyone else, I wouldn't have the time or space to think about all this. But as it stands, I am a neat living at home with my mother and fucking There are always artists, creators, and otherwise who are doing things that I don't. So I have much respect for other people. Including the dense dork, because let's be real here, just because I don't fucking notice or consider their efforts valuable doesn't mean they're not putting in effort. Just because I can't see the ways that their decision making has positive impacts doesn't mean that they're not successful in what they do. Just means that my priorities and their priorities are completely different from each other, and thus that fundamental disconnect without communication is unrecoverable in any regard. Because if I can't hold the space to listen and actually help them feel heard, and they can't hold the space for me to speak and feel heard, then ultimately there's no real friendship or relationship. It's just two people yelling at each other and hoping the other one gets tired out first in order to feel like they won. And that's just what we're stuck in a world of right now. And it's doing nothing. Because they want it to do nothing. The people who are currently have influence and power in charge do not want us to actually fucking think. Because again, it plays into the whole problem of, well, if a concept can outlive the killing off of every original source and or archive that ever considered it, that doesn't mean it's dead. That means it's in a fresh state to start over from the beginning, naive and unnoticed or unacknowledged. Sorry for the long rambling tangent upon tangent upon tangent, but this has just been sitting stuck in my brain and I've just had to watch the world around me burn because of my own inability to take action because I feel so overwhelmed mentally by all these interrelated concepts. So, with all that said and done and my dailies complete, to those of you who snuck by and saw a fragment of this recording, thank you. To those of you who stuck around and watched a good chunk through for whatever reason, I deeply appreciate it. I hope you all have a good day, good night, whatever time or non-time it is. And if it isn't good, or you're feeling stuck, I hope that things either improve, stay manageable for you, or that you find a way to vent without hurting yourself or others. Even if it needs a bit of a creative thinking to get to that point. We're all just trying to live. Some of us are selfish, some of us aren't, some are a mix between, and who knows whatever else the fuck there is. But we're all still trying to live. So let's see if we can work together, even if just for a little.